Religion in the news. Yeah.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Rebel, Religion in the News. Glad you're with us. I'm Jerry O'Lennon, Alfredo Romero, Rock of Life Fellowship, the pastor, and Pastor Tim Rule of Pleasant Valley Baptist Church. Glad you could be with us.
Great to be here.
I remember when Pastor Rule gave a sermon one time, and he's done this a couple of times. You know, I memorize a lot of your sermons, you know.
Well, somebody listens, you know.
Yes, somebody listens. And you were talking about California and how many people want to leave, and you were saying that it's important to keep preaching the word in California because it could make a difference. And because a lot of people were giving up on California.
Well, I say the exact same thing, and I understand a lot of people move because of the woke systems come along, because of finances, taxes, everything else. So a lot of the good, hardworking people are leaving. Mm-hmm. What does that leave California? So always just say this, hey, someone has to stay here to make this a better state. And I know this, for 38 years, God has met every one of my needs. God supplied every one of my needs. And so I can live in California with God's blessings as well as any place else. So I'm not leaving. I'm going to stay here and make it a better place.
Here's an interesting statistic. 58 counties are in the state of California. 10 of them became red. They went from blue to red. One of those is the county where we broadcast from.
Yeah.
Butte County.
It's making a difference.
Makes a difference. But what do you think was the reason for the change that's taken place, not just, you know, throughout the entire United States, but in California, where it's still a very blue state, but there's the possibility that it could start moving a little bit to the conservative, maybe pro-Christian agenda. What do you think the keys were?
You know, we got those little toys, and it has like the 5 balls in a row, and you pull one up ball, and it goes over there. It's like those pendulums, and pendulums are real. And I believe that sometimes it's like truth and grace. If you give too much truth, it's just tough. I mean, the Bible's a tough book. There's no doubt about it. And if all you preach is this and this and this and this, people say, I don't know if I can take that. And so they go the other way and say there is no laws, there is no rules, and do anything you want to do. Then they realize that's not working either. Mm-hmm. And I really believe in California with all this woke stuff and this liberalism, it goes this way, and people are saying, this is not really working. Our education is not working. Our economy is not working. Our defense is not working, like being safe. And people are saying, hey, let's go the other way. And just 3 weeks ago, we mentioned on this podcast that USA Today came out and said there's a trend by Barna information that more young men now are coming back to church than young ladies. And it's always been the opposite. Yeah. And so great illustration. This past Sunday, we had 5 college visitors, all young people, 4 young men, 1 young lady. I gave them a hard time. You know, I had a great time with them. Mm-hmm. And they just said, we just feel we need to get back into church. And there is evidence, people are saying this world is not working the way it is. We got to get back to the other side. So I see the pendulum going back the other way, and that's exciting. That's exciting news.
What's exciting too, and I think that some Christians need to acknowledge that sometimes that many Christians, traditional Christians, could be doomsdayers. You know, we're closer to the end of the world now. God is coming. Here are the signs. Here are the prophecies. Here's what Daniel says. I don't know who all the prophets were. You do. Here, we're at the end of times. This is the end. And maybe we are. We don't know when it's going to happen. But I think it's important for Christians to say, you know what? Sometimes it's man overboard. Sometimes we do that, don't we, Pastor? A little bit.
I've seen a lot of people do that. I just know this. If these are the last days, what a great time to live as a Christian. What a great time to let your light so shine. If it's getting darker and darker, then let that light just so shine. It was amazing. I was out knocking on doors. People say, you knock on doors at your age? Yeah, I really do. And it doesn't take me any longer. I can still knock on doors. And a lady said, so if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? I said, I'm 67. Yeah. And she goes, and you do this? Like, are you the pastor of the church? I said, well, I've been there for 37 years. We just turned, but you're still doing this? Mm-hmm. And that's not an accolade. That just shows you when you go visit people, they like to have that personal touch. Mm-hmm. And it makes a difference. It really makes a difference. So I think we just get back to basics and do what God wants us to do. Then we can put some holes into the darkness.
I think one of the things we talked about, too, right after the election, for those who supported Donald Trump and are conservatives and conservative Christians, is not to make the mistake of doing a victory dance and going into the end zone and spiking the ball. Although, if you've been watching the NFL,
Do the Trump dance.
they're doing the Trump dance. Have you seen this? Have you seen this?
I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like the Madison Square Garden, the fight, and my favorite part about that was Donald Trump and JFK Jr. and Elon Musk. It's like the fellas, just the regular old guys, just going out,
Tulsi
watching a
Gabbard.
fight, and who else is that?
Tulsi Gabbard, the
Okay,
woman.
there you go. Just watch the fight, had a good time. But then they get in the Air Force One for Trump, and they eat McDonald's food. I
Yeah.
thought,
Right.
that was so good. That was so good.
Yeah. No, but I liked it as well. I mean, the whole thing about the sweeping sensation of the Donald Trump dance. We were talking earlier about, you know what? People just want to be happy again.
Yeah, that's true.
We're so tired of being told that we got to be depressed and hating each other, and we just want that pressure. There was a movie star, a television star, Justine Bateman. She said, she was quoted, there was an interview with her, that she was famous for a show, Facts of Life, back in the 80s. But she came out and said, you know, after the election, I felt like if this weight had been removed from my chest, that this dark cloud had left the area, I felt like as if I could breathe again. And I think that's kind of a lot of people feel. No matter who you voted for, whatever, it's just, okay, it's over.
Yep.
But for the Donald Trump supporters, or the more conservatives, is what I should say, I would say that they do feel like, hey, maybe I can smile again.
Yeah.
You know.
Was this country on a precipice, do you think, with this election, like people think? I'll make the point for them. If the election had gone the other way, we would be talking about boys playing girl sports, which now seems to be no more.
It's going away.
Going away. We'd
They're
be
even
talking.
going to take the kickoff in NFL and try to challenge that. Did you hear that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that's great. That's great.
We would be talking about that. We'd be talking about how young children could change their sexes and tell their school administrators, but not tell their parents. I think that's out of the equation now.
Well, that's got to go, because there's still, I'm not going to say anything, but I know a teacher in a school that he's not allowed to tell parents when Timmy walks in as a boy, goes in the bathroom with his backpack, and walks out Tammy.
Yeah.
He's not allowed. That's still going on. So there's a big fight ahead of everyone. But now I feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I feel like there's a rejuvenation.
And I think there's a willingness for people to speak up. And now people were actually afraid to say how many sexes there were, which is, I mean, I'm not afraid to say this. If I have a job interview and I'm asked how many sexes there are, I would say there are 2. But before this election, if the other candidate had won, I might be wanting to maybe, well, you know, I understand that some people think this or that. I would be more, I might be more likely to want to walk the line, you know,
Right.
straddle it. But I think now people are more, I think, brave
Right.
and able to say something that back before would be considered politically incorrect.
Well, really quick. There's 2 words going on right now, and these are people that in the interviews and in the news stations and politicians are saying we're getting back to common sense.
Yeah.
That's
big
a
words.
big phrase going around right now. Hey, we're going back to common sense. Boys playing with girls? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, exactly.
86 different genders, and it's like common sense.
I think it's amazing because we're using words and talking about it. Is that I think people were just afraid to say certain things. Like if I was to say I was a white man, or someone says I'm a black man, or they use another word, and everyone's really cautious about what to
Right.
say. Is that soft skin stuff? But it's amazing the 2 candidates, they didn't worry about what they said.
Right.
And I think that since this is over, it's just like, okay, you know, he's my brother. We can talk. I don't have to worry about this or worry about this. I think we're coming back to that real humanness. Just being human again, as you say, common sense again. And I'm glad that pressure's off for a lot of people.
We talked yesterday about a very liberal morning show called Morning Joe. I don't know if you very, very liberal, which is okay, but they had their point of view, but they were constantly attacking and attacking and attacking. And it was just one big agree fest. Nobody would come on and give the other side. And by the way, Fox News does the same thing. They have people that just agree with what they're doing, and they don't bring anybody on to hear the other side. It shouldn't be that way. We should hear from both sides and let people make up their own minds. Well, they changed dramatically on Monday morning show, where they're like, we went and actually spoke to Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago because, you know, we wanted And I thought it was more like job preservation than it was anything else because their ratings are bad and they need to start being a little bit more reasonable. And I think that's all for the good.
Yeah, yeah. Matter of fact, I'll switch gears like a little bit, but we'll stick in the same venue here. But there was a boy that wore a hat in high school. I think it was here in California, and it was Make America Great Again. The teacher threw a fit, and he assumed two things. I looking at the article a little while ago, but he basically said, and I'll paraphrase: I know you're a conservative, you're not liberal, and I know you're a Christian. And so he made the assumption because he had conservative views because he voted for Donald Trump that he was a Christian. And I think the problem that we had in the media is that the same thing that we would get attacked for. These conservatives, there's these Christians, these Bible thumpers. I think Obama even once said, you hang on to your God, your guns. And so there's this assumption. But I think now maybe they're willing to maybe now start to have conversations where they go, well, tell me your point of view. Tell me, why are you a Christian? Why did you vote for Trump rather than we're garbage, that we're deplorables?
The concern, I think, is that the Republicans, the Christians, don't make the mistake of doing a touchdown dance.
Yeah.
Not like Donald Trump for fun, but doing a real dance, like we win and we're right. And I always think about Jerry Falwell, who was a good man, who once called Ellen DeGeneres Ellen Degenerate.
That wasn't good.
That was not good. That's the kind of thing that the conservative movement needs to avoid. We're going to take a break, continue our chat with Pastor Tim Rule right after this short timeout. All right, welcome back. With Pastor Tim Rule of Pleasant Valley Baptist Church, my co-host Alfredo Romero of Rock of Life Fellowship, and part two of today's podcast and our radio show here on KKXX, Christian Talk Radio here in the North State. I want to talk about marriage counseling. We're going to put it up on the screen on our podcast, but coming up, the church, Pleasant Valley Baptist Church, has a marriage conference, which is going to be in Sacramento. It's over the weekend. It's like a couple of, you spend a night.
Yes.
Husband and wife go there, they hang out, and they have, conferences and workshops, I suppose.
It's great. It's great.
And I know that your church does the same thing.
Yeah,
a lot of
about
churches.
6 months ago we did, yeah.
Yeah, these kind of things are of course, my marriage is we're still on our honeymoon, so there's no problem after 25 years. We have no problem. We don't need this. I guess
That's going to be an expensive honeymoon, isn't it?
Right. You use the word tune-up, that marriages need, even ones that are good.
Oh, yes.
Like a running car.
Yes.
Need a tune-up.
No doubt about it. I have been married for 46 years, and outside of my walk with God, it's the greatest joy I have in my life. And for everyone just maybe to hear that, so, well, you've got to get married. Oh, no. Or a good background. And that's not true. God does not hand someone a good marriage or a bad marriage. God just hands you a marriage. And God says, there it is. It's a choice gift. And whatever you want to do with that, that's up to you. And I think about when I got married, I got this paradigm. I lived down that square of those that box I live in. That could be a boxing rink, and I could fight all the time like my parents did. So 7 marriages, 6 divorces, 1 murder, 1 suicide. That's my bringing up, okay? So this thing didn't look very good, okay? Or I can make that box a home and look forward to every day coming home and taking care of my wife and loving her and loving my kids. And so marriage is so essential to the very moral fiber of a nation. And once your marriages go, your families go. If your families go, your culture goes. So what's wrong with just helping your marriage? Let me make one statement. We read books about how to take care of cars, how to take care of our knee, how to take care of my racquetball, but we never read a book about marriage. And so just to get a little insight about marriage, what is a man's role? What is a lady's role? What does a lady really like out of a man? What does a man really like out of a lady? And be honest and forthbearing to talk about it. And that's what the conference is all about. So it's great.
If you want to, you could go to the website, pvbaptist.org, to find out more about it and to register, pvbaptist.org. There is a cost for it, $224 per couple per registration. Does that include the hotel?
hotel, and then breakfast, and then lunch. And so I think the only thing they go out, because we encourage them, we want you to come, but it's really just to get away, have some sessions, have some fun. We have games and stuff there. But then they have the night off, and they go and have a date on their own, enjoy themselves, come back in the morning and have some stuff. So you have a chance to sit down and talk about the things you just learned and then implement them. So
Here's one of the things that would concern, I think, some people.
okay.
You go to this and you see a couple that you know, and you go, and then you come back home and say, "Boy, did you know that the Jones family, they must be having some problems. They're at a marriage conference, they're an overnight conference in Sacramento. Boy, I wonder what's going on there."
And she was crying.
And she was crying, and
After
she
the
teared
speaker.
up, and then he looked really stern at her, and then
He
she
got
looked
up and
stern
went
at
to the
him, and he got
restroom.
up and left the room, and oh boy, I tell you, boy, this is really juicy stuff. That would be sort of the concern I think that some couples may have. Is that
Well, I
true
think
or
it's
not?
great when you go back to church the next Sunday and see people fighting, griping in the car, things like that. And say, they should have gone to that conference. That's what they should have done. They should have gone to the conference. But at that conference, and it is, I think we start on a Thursday night, and you have a session, and it's just some fun. And then it's done early enough where everyone just chooses their place to go someplace. It's a beautiful hotel. Get up the next morning, so they have a date on their own. Get up the next morning, you have a session or two. We bring in a guest speaker, and just saying, let's just talk about real life. And then you go out and have lunch, enjoy yourself, come back for a session, go out and have dinner for yourself. It's just a great time to get away.
Is it hard for people to open up at these things? I know it would be difficult for me to share some not intimate details, but even just private details about our relationship. It must be difficult for people to open up in a group setting, is it?
Okay, let me help you. I don't think we necessarily have to open up in front of everyone and say, here's my marriage. But I've done this for 36 years at our church. We started when I became the pastor there. So I've been to 36 conferences. Like every other year, we'll have them at our church. So we provide babysitting, childcare, people right there. They don't have to drive. They don't have any expense whatsoever. But there's just something about getting away and having that date and being by yourself. I've also probably done 50 to 60 of these as literally around the country. I do 2 or 3 next year. And so there is a need for these things. But here's something to do, all right? I'll give you an example, all right? Once you and your wife take 2 minutes right now and say, if I could do something differently around the house that was easy, what could I do? If I could do something differently around the house to make you happier, what can I do? And what's yours? She may say, you know something, Jerry, you do great. You take your dirty clothes, you take them all the way to the laundry room, and you throw them on the floor. And you know something? If you could just put them in that hamper right there, that's a little thing. It'd make my day.
Yeah.
You know something? We don't talk about that, and we can just to each other.
If you would put the dishes right in the dishwasher,
Yes.
you know.
I mean, there's a myriad of things. I mean, I don't know about you. Here we are men. Why do we have to have 3 tubes of toothpaste open at the same time?
Right. Yeah.
How about we just use one?
Yeah.
Now, that'd be a simple little thing to do, but it's one of those little things that make you think, oh, I can work on that.
I think one of the things is, I think it's communication, and it's in all relationships, not just a marital relationship. I have a Lutheran background, and in my Lutheran catechism, it talks about the 7th commandment, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Is that number 7? I think it's number 7.
You put me on the spot.
I think
I'm not a Lutheran, so I don't.
I think it's number 7. But in the catechism, it says that means more than just saying something negative. It means putting the best structure on everything. And putting, so if somebody says something, I think sometimes we put the worst structure on it. And I think it's important in a marriage, and it doesn't really go anywhere sometimes. I said, I didn't mean it that way. I meant it in a good way. You're interpreting it in a bad way. And of course, I do the same thing. You know, it senses, why would you say that about me? You know, and it's like putting the best structure on something as opposed to putting the worst structure on
Yes.
things.
Right before we started the ministry, which 10 years ago, 11 years ago, we went to a seminar for couples. We went. I'm from Hawaii, so it was in Hawaii. So I said, "Oh, great! I'll visit family." And Debbie and I would go to this marriage conference. It was on Kauai, and there was Greg Laurie, who I met, a wonderful man, and also Dr. Gary Chapman, who wrote the 7 of the love languages.
5 languages.
5 love languages, yeah. And he has another one called the 5 apologies. And anyway, so it was great. And we had this wonderful time, and I was the guy that definitely shared, and I was sitting there going, and then in the second year, she, and then she made me feel, and my wife's going, would you be quiet? I was that guy. I also got to meet Marco Rubio.
Oh, wow.
That was interesting. I shared a couple conversations with him.
Was he having trouble with his wife?
Well,
See, that's where it gets started.
That's what happens, you see?
But he was there, and
He was there to strengthen his marriage to have a good example. So.
Yes.
Yeah, and he had, it was funny because I got a picture with him, but he had a shirt on that said something like, she's Mrs. Right, I'm Mr. Wrong kind of thing.
Right.
And it was hilarious, but he's actually a very nice guy. But anyway, the whole point about it was before we went into ministry, we knew that we needed to be as strong as we could be as a couple because ministry is not easy. Mm-hmm. And if there's any cracks or any in our relationship that we weren't trying to fill up or any tune-up that we didn't need if brakes were going out or whatever, we needed to do something. So we went to marriage seminar, and we still talk about it to this day.
I think you need to be careful because, Marco Rubio is going to be having Senate confirmation hearings pretty soon, and you might be called to testify.
I got his email. We exchanged emails.
Just like
Did you really?
Yes.
Oh, that's nice.
Good.
Yeah, I told him I was becoming a pastor. I told him I would pray for him, and he's got a tough road. He goes, well, I'll email you. Send me your email. I gave him my email, and we're buddies.
There you go.
Oh, really?
There you go.
Well, that's nice to hear. That is good.
Jerry, just like the example you gave, I mentioned I've been married for 46 years. If I had a car that's 46 years old and still ran, but to give it a tune-up, to fill the tires up, to make sure the windshield wipers got the rain off the windshield, little tune-ups go a long way.
Right.
So to have a marriage, we've been married 47 years, but you can always tune up a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I'll say this, and I say this to a lot of the couples in our church, when they go through communication difficulties, I say, let's just stop. We're two mature adults. We've been married this long. We can talk. And I love saying it. I just said this in Canada last week. Whatever you're doing that makes your wife upset, just stop it. Mm-hmm. And honey, whatever you're doing to make him upset, just stop it.
Yeah.
And honestly, it comes down to that. And I've even challenged this. When you adults get in an argument, you got to video yourself. Oh, my soul. You never show it to anybody. It's like two little kids. No one fights the way married people fight. It's true.
Right.
Because we know each other so well. We can push all those buttons, right? Mm-hmm. And I always say this, real men don't have buttons. And real men don't have buttons, right? And so someone has to stay in control. And I'm not going to let someone else get to me to cause me to react in certain ways. And those are all little tips and skills, biblical, a soft answer, turn away wrath, a grievous word, stir up anger. There's so many things we can learn about having a better marriage.
It's just not the action; it's our reaction.
Big time.
That we need to control.
Big time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you're right. I not just in marriage, but I should not be able to let other people control my emotions or my actions.
Anyone, exactly.
Yeah, the conference is February 7th and 8th, so you've got a long time to go before to register. And it's at pvbaptist.org. Just log on to pvbaptist, all straight across, .org to register. It takes place again February 7th and 8th. It takes place at what hotel? Well, the Holiday Inn Express and Suites. Mm-hmm. That's over in Sacramento. And so pvbaptist.org.
Can I say one last thing?
Go ahead.
Is that I would never want anyone not to want to come home and be in their own house.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I mean, whatever the problem is, just solve it. Be able to come home. That's what we need. That's what we need. And God can make that happen.
General, thank you so much for a very good, interesting discussion this morning. Thanks for joining us, everybody, here on Rebel Religion in the News. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next time. So long.